Like,
Okay, so you have per se causation and per accidence causation. Per accidence causation relies on the concept of time, so there's going to be temporal sequential order. In a per se causal relation chain, there's not going to necessarily be temporal order. So you can have the cause and effect, which exist simultaneously, whereas the effect is dependent on the cause. So it's determined in virtue of ontological dependency relation, irrespective of whether or not the cause is temporally prior to the effect. So it does not require some sort of like temporal subsequence relation or something like that, right?
yeah.
So you're saying that God is the first cause in that sense. He's like sustains all things. Okay, cool. So first and foremost, how we
Not in that sense.
metaphysical grounded. Okay, got you. So he's the metaphysical ground of all things which are possible, all metaphysical possibilities and probabilities, which I think you mean like possibilities, but that's fine. We'll get too stuck at the semantics there. So how would you justify that? Excuse me. What are you going to say?
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, got you. I was just going to ask you, so are you going to be making an argument which states that it is the case that it's logically necessary that this being exists, or that it is more likely that this being exists?
Yeah. So it's just going to be certain.
The second, so it's more likely. Okay, cool. So what... I'm not sure what you're saying. I'm not sure if that's what he said. Is that what he said? Yes or no?
Is my mic like fucking up?
I'm not... No, it's not really, but it's kind of like my background perhaps. Let me just like... Give me a second. Hold on. I'm not sure if I'm tripping out or something, because I'm pretty sure you said the latter, but I'm not sure. So I ask you, okay, so the conclusion, when you say God exists, okay, this proposition, God exists, is it the case that you're saying that it is logically necessarily true, or that it is more likely to be true given the evidence?
Yeah, so again, I already answered this. I said certain.
Okay, so it's certain.
Yeah.
Okay, it's logically certain, got you. So that means there's a logical contradiction in denying the proposition that God exists. Okay, so how do you demonstrate the logical contradiction?
So do you want me to demonstrate the argument, or like?
I just want you to demonstrate the logical contradiction, because you can give like a deductively valid argument for a proposition, and the proposition is not something which is logically necessarily true, because the argument is composed of premises which are not actually logical, which are not actually logically necessary.
You said what?
So you can have an argument, you can deliver an argument for the proposition that God exists, and even if the argument is valid and sound, okay, got you.
So, just to
wait, I wasn't finished though. I wasn't finished. I thought you were talking to someone else. I wasn't finished.
Yeah. Low-key.
Yeah, because of your background, I thought you were talking to someone else. That's my bad. So I'm basically saying that I'm not just asking for an argument. In fact, we can get onto the argument stuff later on, okay? Because this is basically an argument for the proposition anyways. I'm saying you can have a deductively sound argument for the proposition that God exists. And even though the argument is sound, the proposition God exists is not qualified as a logically necessary fact or a certain fact. And so I'm asking, as anyone would actually ask with any sort of philosophical background knowledge, how do you demonstrate the logical contradiction entailed from denying the proposition that God exists? What's the logical contradiction?
I don't think there's like... So all I'm saying is that there's a degree of uncertainty in the conclusion with an argument.
Okay, so you're not saying that it is certain. Now you're saying there's a degree of certainty, not that it is certain.
Are you like trying to claim like an epistemic certainty?
I'm not making any claim on the type of certainty you're invoking here. I asked you originally. Okay, cool. I'm not making that claim.
P1, any
my original
probability distribution Px.
Do you want me to clarify my intentions before you? Do you want me to clarify my intentions before you? Do you want me to clarify my intentions before you go on to a different point, or do you want to just speak over me?
You told me to give me P1.
I didn't ask you for P1 at all. I asked you for a contradiction. Yeah, saying that you can deliver an argument, which is just a possibility claim, is not demanding that
you think I need to provide a contradiction to justify my position sufficiently? Like,
if you're saying that God exists is a certain proposition from a logical scope, then yes, you'd have to. But if you're saying something else, that's the only means of justifying the proposition. That's the most conventional means. It is logical. I don't hold a claim on that. Not making that claim.
So then I don't need to do that. So anyways,
did I make the claim that you need to do this, or did I hold on? Did I say that you need to do this or not?
Are you talking? Why are you talking over me? Anyways,
I was talking originally, and you're talking over me. Then you're going to be complaining about this.
Px presupposes adherence to a meta rule R. I'm just embodying Kolmogor's axioms. Do you disagree? So arbitrary or self-contradictory
assignments. Did you just copy and paste the entire argument?
Sure.
Got you.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And by the way, you still have not clarified the type of proposition you've mentioned, because you went from saying that God exists. Going from saying God exists is a certain proposition, and then they're saying that there's a degree of certainty.
Can I join your syndicate? Yeah. So, do you want
Yeah.
me to clarify before I give he one?
If you want me to clarify, yeah, sure.
No, I didn't say you clarify, bro.
So what are you saying?
Yeah. So, I'm just saying that the degree of certainty will provide a sufficient
What does degree of certainty
justification
mean?
for my position. Justify.
What do you mean by degree of certainty?
Yeah. So I have good reasons in believing X.
What does good reason mean?
It's a good reason. Like, so if I have sufficient reason for justifying my proposition.
What does that mean? So before you even give the definition, I'll just give you like all the possible. I'll just give you like all the possible. Just relax, okay? I'll just give you like all the possible means by which you could actually.
Do you eject?
You're doing this thing. You're doing this thing where you think that like making these minor interruptions to throw me off the actual question is going to be a good debate strategy. So I'm trying to be a good faith debater here by asking you a series of questions to understand the perspective. And now you're doing the weird thing where you think that accusing me of not being a good faith debater and virtue signaling is the rhetorical strategy. Look, so you said it's a good reason. So initially when I asked you,
as in is valid, yeah.
I don't know why you're crashing out and you're screaming. That was really odd, very strange. Look, so Tron, let's just get back to what we're talking about.
All right, bro.
Just calm down, G. So we're talking about the idea of what you mean by evidence, okay? So you said that it is the case. Sorry, what do you mean by degree of certainty? To which you have stated that what you mean by this is something which is a good reason, and by good reason it just means something which is a sufficient reason to believe in something. Now, in epistemology, we have more than one means of defining this. So I'm asking you now, what qualifies as
justifications?
a sufficient reason?
Didactic justifications. I'm saying that more propositionally justified in X.
You're talking about the epistemic justification, Tron.
No.
So when you're saying that it is the case, that you're justified in believing the proposition that God exists, you're not talking about epistemic justification?
Jesus Christ. You want to go to the P1, bro?
Do you think that's an argument to what they just said or a response?
Do you want to go to the P1, bro?
Like, is this how you dodge my questions? You just ask
propositionally justified next.
That does not qualify the scheme you're going on in this conversation.
Wait, so when we're talking about epistemological justification...
Epistemology, that's how it's pronounced. Yeah, continue.
Okay, cool. Do you think a propositional justification is not going to fit that criteria, or what?
What do you mean by propositional justification?
Yeah, for having good reasons in believing X. So a propositional justification here is S has propositional justification to believe that P. If S has...
You can have good reasons for believing X.
We can also have a didactic justification in which S has a didactically justified belief in P. If S has propositional justification to believe that P.
So what you said originally when I asked you for the semantics of propositional justification is you telling me that something which is a good reason to believe in X, and I have it typed down right here. So that specifically would not be a good semantical analysis of the term, because we can have good reasons for believing a proposition, which is not something which is in the form of an inferential or propositional justification, or is even composed of propositions. So you're going to need actual qualifiers for you to develop more complete semantical
we can have good reasons into believing not X. So that's
we can have good reasons for believing something without that reason being propositional.
Can you give me like an example?
Yeah, think of like an all-knowing being who knows that a belief is correct. Like, for example, if the belief that Tron has is correct, right? Are you talking or no? Okay, cool, you're talking over me. I was saying that you can have an all-knowing being who knows that a given proposition is true, even though the scheme by which he knows the proposition is not something which relies on the propositional system. That's logically possible. And so the semantics you gave was kind of like, yeah, it just did not work. Yeah.
Damn, so you think there's a P not P with me saying I could provide a propositional justification for the position?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying here is that
the definition Can I get P1 or P2? Like, I'm
look
not
at him
just about semantics,
running away.
It's boring. Like,
yeah, it is boring, but it is actually something which is useful, and you're running from that specific point, right? So,
yeah,
look, I'm going to ask you this question now. I'm going to ask you the new question, since the first point you fumbled on badly. And by the way, no one was claiming the contradiction that's relevant to my point. What I'm really saying here is simply that, do you believe, it's a yes or no to my question, right?
Right.
So
can I give P2
that God exists is logically necessarily true? After you answer my question.
Holy shit. Yeah, so I already gave the criteria for God. Like, I can give the argument now, right?
So, no, I'm not asking for the criteria for God as a being.
Like,
I'm asking for.
You look at the argument, right? Because it's really fucking early. Like, I'm not gonna argue about semantics for like 5 hours with Apollo the king, the main character.
What did I see the
and then you could raise some critiques
does
after
not
provide the argument.
Does not clarify what I'm asking for. Pardon?
I'll clarify what I'm asking for. I can give you the argument. And then you can ask what you want to ask.
That was corny. But look, I'm just going to ask you one more time.
Okay, the way you debate is corny.
Okay, deliver the argument. Deliver the argument. Don't say the way I'm debating is corny when they try to be a voice actor a while ago.
I'll give P1. Do you reject P1?
Yeah, maybe if I call Apollo a good bitch, people think I'm winning the debate. That was not rhetorical. Yeah, that was so rhetorical.
It wasn't meant to be rhetorical.
Nice.
Yeah, do you reject P1?
You're stumbling over yourself. You're peanut underwear right now. Just give the argument, and then I'm going to ask you the same question, which you've been dodging for 15 times. Is this why you e-sex court,
you fucking retard? So P1.
Oh, look, if I say that Apollo e-sex someone, you're going to think I'm debating. I'm
you reject winning. You e-sex
nice kind of argument.
Are you going to reject P1, yes or no?
You just rejected the man.
What the fuck?
Mocking your stutter.
What was the stutter there? Yo, Mono, did I stutter?
You forgot the stutter? Mono,
did I stutter?
Did I stutter? You're going to debate Goon on whether you're stuttering because you can't actually debate on the topic.
You want to debate Goon semantics,
Isn't that so crazy? Isn't that so crazy? So, hold on. Conclusion of the argument. Is it logically necessarily true, or is it something which is a probabilistic fact?
Do you reject or accept P1? Do you want a justification for P1? Like, I'm not doing this.
Whether or not I accept or reject P1 does not establish the question.
By the way,
Merks lost an argument, Tron. That's not a response to my question.
I wasn't there. I was turning off my air conditioner. By the way, Mercury, you lost it.
Guys, still autistic.
Don't
say someone sucks and you come to them for amps multiple times, dude. But look, I'm gonna ask.
I never came for that nigga to amps. What are you talking about? Anyways, yes. So P1, coherent probability distributions require a meta rule R. You reject or accept it. It's justified by Kolmogor's axioms.
It requires? When you say require, are you saying it's logically necessary for this to be the case for there to be some sort of probabilistic inference?
Yeah, because if you have like arbitrary assignments like PA equals 1.2 and PA.
By the way, the chat is drowning the argument, so just post it in the tier list channel.
Violations of these rules are just.
If I just post it in the tier list channel, dude, just calm down.
Okay, did you hear what I just said? Or...
Well, not fully. You're stumbling over yourself, but just posting the tier list channel.
Oh, stumbling. I got you. Finally got the P1, bro. Here, check the chat and
in tier list.
In the what the fuck? Where is it?
In tier list channel. Yes, track the freaking. Yeah, god damn it, you're so slow.
Track the channel. Yeah, do you reject or...
Not the channel, I was asking you to track what I just said, fucking moron. So anyways, P1, coherent probability distributions require a meta rule. Okay, so what's your definition of a meta rule, sir?
So yeah, so by Kolmogorov's axioms with like have non-negativity, unit measure, and countable additivity, the R represents these logical mathematical constraints.
Yeah, Kolmogorov axioms is something.
So when I say meta rule R, the R represents the logical / mathematical.
Are you taking Kolmogorov axioms to be identical to what the meta rule is?
No, Jesus Christ.
Okay, so give me the other meta rules which are outside the Kolmogorov axioms instantiation example. And also, what does it mean for
its probability? My mic just cut out. Your mic is like muffled as shit. It sounds like you're in the bathroom right now. Like.
No, it doesn't. But anyways,
it does. The nigga fix your mic.
Don't say to fix my mic when your mic has been bugging out, dude. You just said a while ago.
Is my mic? So you just told me my mic wasn't bugging out.
You just said a while ago.
So you want me to give another? Muffled. Do you hear this nigga's mic? This shitty ass mic.
Yeah. So what I want is simply
again fix your mic.
To give me a definition for what the meta rule actually is, and also define what coherent probability distributions are.
Okay, I got you. So you told me earlier to give me other meta rules. So we have logical meta rules, which transcends.
No, I asked for definition, not for an extensive account.
Yes, I did.
You saying Kolmogorov axioms is one example, would not be a definition. That would be an example. Not sure if you know the difference, but I might have to educate you.
Do you know the definition of like a meta rule when we're talking about PT?
I'm asking you for the definition you're using here.
I got you. Yeah, so the definition for meta rule here is just for disjoint events. It just enables coherent quantification of uncertainty. You reject that definition.
Enables coherent quantification, you said?
Yes, fucking retard.
What's the account of
What,
coherent
Steve?
here? Fucking
The
retard.
accounts of PT. Fucking retard.
Stop stumbling
Dumb
with
fuck
yourself.
retard.
Why are you trying to
Dumb
be
fuck
retarded
retard.
without even through articulation? What the fuck is
Yeah,
going
can you
on?
respond to
Look,
what I said?
so just
Look. So the
give me
probability
the account of
coherence in
coherence
P1
here.
is an isolated part of the interlocking system of
Isolated.
constraints spanning logic, math,
It's
science,
not
and
isolated.
semantics.
It's isolated, dude.
Um,
Isolated. That's like another word.
What?
What do you mean by coherence in this context?
Yeah, so coherence in the context of P1, which is justified by Kolmogor's axioms. The coherence is excluding non-contradictory or arbitrary assignments that violate R, which is the meta rule, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, dude. So
My fault, bro.
your definition of the meta rule is just the type of thing which enables us to have coherent probability distributions. And then when I ask you what it means for something to be coherent, your whole semantical analysis of the word coherent is you
Not
saying the
contradictory
type
and
of
not
thing
arbitrarily.
which is non-contradictory, which is justified by the Kolmogorov axioms, which goes back to the meta rule. So it's just a
What do you mean by
definition.
what do you mean when I say justified by the Kolmogor's axioms?
You're asking
When I say
me what
justified
do
by
I
the
mean when
Kolmogor's
you say
axioms,
this?
all I'm
I'm not
simply
going to make it
saying is
explain.
that the
You are the
axioms
moron.
excludes contradictory or self-arbitrary, not self-arbitrary, but arbitrary.
Dog, just take your time and calm down, G. God damn it. Look, so just repeat your sentence one more time, please.
Yeah, so did you hear what I said earlier?
If you're talking about the most
so the
sentence, definitely not.
Oh my god. Yeah, so all I was saying for the P1 is that the Kolmogor's axioms excludes self-contradictory assignments. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. Continue.
By definition.
Okay, so again, none of this is actually established what you're saying, but just again, it's not really clarifying it. But look, all I want you to do right now, because I don't want to get too hung up on the semantics, just post the entire argument in the tier list channel because they're done in your argument. I'm not sure if you post the entire argument in the about chat, but just do the same thing in the tier list channel. Yeah,
yeah, so just to clarify for the audience, all I'm saying here is that a meta rule is just a higher order principle or constraint that governs how lower level rules operate, cohere, or just applied, ensuring consistency, rationality, or intelligibility within a system. It's just very simple.
Okay, so I know.
Yeah, for P2, if Y is metaphysically possible, implies a domain of discourse, a possibility space S is structured by intelligible constraints, like for example, logical consistency and the law of non-contradiction. So that DNA is a coherent, possible, and impossible. And P3, I'm not pasting anything because I know you're a ChatGPT demon.
You literally just
P3, there's just a priority model framework where we would say that physical laws and statistical mechanisms are contingent features within the specific possible worlds, and they cannot ground S, which is itself, as S defines the framework within which such laws are just even conceivable alternatives. So like S is logically and metaphysically prior. And justification for that is just physical laws presuppose logical possibility, and S constrains
so the
worlds
conclusion
with
of the argument,
and no
the conclusion of the argument, which just states that God exists. Okay.
Yeah,
there's no logical contradiction in that being true, and that being false, I should say. So it's not going to be the case it's logically necessarily true.
Okay.
So that's arguing something probabilistic in nature. I'm not saying you're saying this, but I'm just eliminating.
Wait, I follow. Look, do you think stealing my rebuttal I used against Eric is going to help you? Because all my position is, just to be clear, is I have more didactic states that I'm more justified in to believe God may exist. You fucking retard. So stealing my rebuttal that I used on Eric because you got your dick was hard as shit, it's not gonna make you look good. You fucking dumb bitch. You fat retard. You fat pedophile retard. So P4, the totality of metaphysical possibilities is actually infinite, and that's demonstrable. Like in mathematics, infinitely many constrained mathematical structures. We have different infinite cardinalities and non-Euclidean geometries. And how this translates for like propositional for any coherent state of affairs, P and Q is coherent for infinitely many distinct consistent Q. So I hope you don't like try to go against that. It's kind of like analytic. And P5 there's gonna be two grounding candidates. So to account for S's existence, structure, and sustenance, there's two viable ontologies that arise. There's gonna be one, the hypothesis that posits a fucking unity, so a single necessary entity U with an infinite causal power grounding S as a whole. And there's going to be a plurality as a contrasting hypothesis, which is an infinite plurality P of contingent entities, each grounding a fragment of S. And so the first hypothesis within P5 is just going to win on parsimony and explanatory power because you possess one fundamental entity versus P's infinite
Why the
fundamental
kind of
entities.
parsimony are
And
going
so
under?
ontological parsimony. So
Why
you
is
inherently
ontological
explain S's
parsimony
unity and
probability
completeness,
racing?
and P cannot explain why its fragments coherent to a unified
Why is
S, or why the
ontological
plurality is
parsimony
exhaustive without
probability racing?
invoking a further unifying principle, regressing to U. And that's just justified by ontological economy and
Look, I don't know why you're having a
probability.
mental breakdown, but just what I'm saying,
So
okay? So why is
P7 just states
ontological
that therefore
parsimony
U exists.
probability racing? Why is it probability racing? Ontological parsimony in the sense of power, why is it probability racing? Are you an objectivist about this or subjectivist?
Oh my god. Did your mic just cut out, bro? Can you say that again, sweetheart?
Are you an objectivist about Bayesianism?
Wait,
or
you're saying that you're asking why is ontological parsimony probability racing?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, cool. So when you have like two contrasting hypotheses, like let's say that hypothesis one. Oh wow.
Yeah, that shit is not funny. Whoever is doing this is not funny. Continue.
Holy fucking shit. Yeah, so I'll just provide the Bayesian justification for that. So each entity / assumption in the explanation introduces opportunities for error, so there's more fallibility within the hypothesis. So if two theories explain the same data equally well, so let's say that theory A posits one entity, which is the prior probability P, this is like basic probability theory, but you're trying to rap right now. And let's say that theory B posits 10 entities. So the prior probability would be way higher because there's more room for fallibility between the 10 entities. So for example, we'll have P1 plus P2 plus P3 all the way up to like fucking P10. The P here just represents the
How are you determining
so since probabilities multiply, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Since the probabilities multiply, it would just be the case that the prior probability. Why is he talking over? So the reason why I raise possibilities is because fewer entities equals fewer conjuncts that must all be true, reducing the cumulative risk of false assumptions.
Yeah,
there you go. What's your question? Yeah,
so,
what's your question? Because you're trying to cut me off because you're a fucking fat bitch and you like having sex with fucking minors and shit. You like e-sexing it.
And now you're resorting to the ad homs because you have no actual argument.
No, because you're just a fucking fat retard. So what's the question?
Yeah, you're just crashing out, and he proceeds to present more ad homs as you're going to intellectually.
Yeah, so you can cry about it, bitch, like how you e-sexing court, you fucking pedo
probability.
Bitch.
Are you determining and then more ad homs? What I'm gonna even adjust now.
Nobody can hear you right now. You're inaudible because your mic is dog shit. Your mic is fucking muffled. You're in the fucking toilet right now. You're in the toilet. No one can understand you. Fix your fucking mic, you fat bitch.
Then we can do a talking stick if no one can understand me.
No, just fix your mic. That's all you have to do. Turn noise suppression on.
How have you been able to respond to my questions if I was...
Nobody heard your questions? You can't even say question correctly.
Yes, you did.
Okay, can you restate the question for the entire VC?
The question regarding why is ontological parsimony probability rate.
Yeah, I just justified. You want to conclude? You fucking suck.
No, you just agreed.
I'm moving you to tier. I'm moving you to tier 5. I'm moving you to tier 5. On God, I'm moving you to tier 5. You're terrible. We can conclude on this point. We can conclude on this fucking point. No. We can conclude on this point.
You want to run away from the points because
I just justified it. I just justified. Let's move you down. Okay, let's move you down. It's gonna be God Hyde for now on. Hyde, you're gonna be the king for now on. This nigga's fucking garbage.
Look at this guy just running away.
I'm not running away. Yo, Paris. Is it not the case that I just? Is it not the case that I just justified why ontological parsimony is plausibility reason?
No. Do you agree in talking?
No, I don't.
Why not?
You can respond to it. I'm gonna go on mute. You can just respond to it. You fucking suck.
Okay, got you. So I'm gonna respond to your points while you're on mute, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing on your screen. So, just to address the reason you've given for ontological parsimony is probability reason. Okay, so you mentioned the idea that for more entities that are being postulated within a theoretical landscape, there's going to be some fallibility regarding that proposition. Now, what I'm going to say in response. Who is doing this?
Who's doing that? Yeah, okay. Apollo, can you restate that because I legit can't hear you, bro. Like you're.
Okay, cool. So what I'm saying here, and I'll just ask people in the chat. See, every single person cannot hear me.
Well, no, your mic is super muffled, and there's people playing like audios and shit.
Okay, so people are saying that I'm held back by my mic right now, so I'm gonna take what you're saying.
Yeah. Even Mercury, your fanboy, is saying that your mic is fucked up right now.
So let me know if my mic sounds better currently. No, still muffled, right?
It's not as muffled, bro. You can go ahead.
Okay, cool. So got you. Okay, cool. I think the reason because of the bit of my mic. So good, I asked for the justification for ontological parsimony. Your response is based on the idea that it is something which is probability reason, given the fact that for any specific proposition which includes an entity being postulated, there is some fallibility which is being assigned to that specific proposition. However, you can have negative existential proposition which has fallibility. So why do you think fallibility is strictly confined towards entity postulation instead of something which can be assigned to something outside of postulation of given object?
Right. So you said you can have negative existential propositions that what? Waffles, can you mute your fucking mic? Are you shit?
What mic is that, bro?
Was that nigga Mike?
No, mute your fucking mic, my nigga.
What's that fucking shit, bitch? What the fuck? Who the fuck make that quack noise in they fucking mic?
So you don't think my account of ontological economy raises the raises the possibility, or is possibility racing, because you can have a set of negative existential propositions that explains the data, so it doesn't explain the bad data. There's gonna be a lack of like explanatory power here.
No, my response is just not just saying negative existential propositions, you can explain the data, but also the negative existential propositions, which are equally as likely as the propositions which are positive in nature. So it is not necessarily impacted by the amount of positive. Yeah.
So you said the negative existential propositions are equally as likely as the non-negative existential propositions?
Yeah, all of them. Yeah.
Give me 1 second, baby. I have to do something real quick.
Yeah.
Shut your faggot ass up, Chief.
You can just do your ChatGPT research and come back.
Because I'm on ChatGPT. I'm talking to my parent. Give me a
second.
No, I just went to I actually went to my AMP server to show you the definition.
You went to your AMP server.
That fake ass laugh.
Look at me fake laughing. Shut the fuck up, dude. Just give the argument.
Yeah, bro, that's why I kiss you on your forehead.
You're gay as shit. But let's see.
Yeah, be right back. I'll have to talk to my mom.
I'm mute Waffles, bro. He did on accident. Oh, please. Yo, Frost, shut your bitch ass up, nigga.
Shut your bitch ass up. Smack this shit out
your mouth. You got bitch, nigga. You got bitch.
Nigga. You're broke.
You got
nigga.
bitch.
You're broke, nigga. You
got
big
bitch.
bread, nigga, just like your mans. Both y'all niggas is broke. Say your mans pay up. It's 25. Nigga, suck my dick, nigga.
See, yeah, you just got bitch, nigga. I already sent my money, nigga.
Fake bread. Shut up, real bread, and I believe it.
Wait, what? Prove it's fake. Oh, you can't even prove it, dumbass. Shut the fuck up, bitch. Hey, mute Waffles, bro, please.
My bad. Real bread. So, Apollo, I think I remember you using the same argument against Eric. I think I remember you saying this dumb shit against Eric. So the problem and how this doesn't pertain to the argument at all is because negative existentials lack causal power. So they describe what is and not what does something. For example, if we have like a positive, which a generator produces electricity, and that explains active power, and we have a negative, which there is no black hole disrupting the circuit, I believe that's just a passive condition, not a cause. So when I say the space of possibilities requires active suddenness in P7, saying no entity prevents coherence doesn't explain how coherence arises. It just presupposes a coherence while offering no mechanism. Only a positive ground you can cause rational structure. So when you have negative explanations, they're just going to be a parasitic. Holy shit, that was a badass stutter. That was terrible. Cut the fucking cameras. So the problem here with what you're saying, let me fucking think, is that when you say negative claims rely on prior positive frameworks to have, we would say that negative claims don't rely on prior positive frameworks to have meaning. So for example, when you say there is no elephant in this room, that presupposes a... Who keeps playing the soundboards?
Who is that, bro? Ban him, bro.
Ban him, bro.
Shut your squeaking ass up, nigga.
Shut your
bitch ass up, nigga. You broke ass, nigga. Good
Stop playing the fucking soundboards. You're a fucking retard. I'm gonna rape you. I'm gonna rape you. Anyways, for example, if you would say there is no elephant in this room, that presupposes the concept of elephant, and a room with boundaries, and C, laws of physics permitting elephant exclusion. Now we're talking about the negative. I can't even speak, bro. like yeah, so when you're asserting no entities fragments the possibility space, that presupposes a space unity and coherence from P to P8, but offers no account for why the unity exists. And so the positive ground U explains unity, and the negative proposition assumes it. When you're making that objection, you're also making a probability miscalculation, because the problem is assigning equal priors to positive and negative existentials ignores explanatory context, which is essential for ontological economy. So we can have like a Bayesian adjustment. So let B hypothesis 1 equate to a positive entity X grounds of possibility space, and let's say hypothesis not H. Let's say no positive entity exists, and the absence suffice. Now we have the evidence E, which is the rational structure of possibilities. So we would have the likelihood comparison, and we have like the priors for the first hypothesis is high, as in the rational ground predicts coherent structure, and for the contrary hypothesis, which is the negative existential propositions, the absences don't predict don't predict specific structures. For example, why symmetries or why probability rules. So even if priors like in the first hypothesis and the contrary hypothesis, when negative existential propositions are equal, the first hypothesis would still be more parsimonious than contrasting, because H explains E while A coincides with E. And there would also be a problem with regressive absences. So like negative explanations shift the burden without resolving anything at all. Like if you take, for example, like let's say Q, the question could be, that's a question, by the way. Why is the possibility space coherent, right? And this nigga Gyro would say, oh, well, because nothing disrupts it. And there will be another question, so why is there nothing disrupting it? And this nigga Gyro, after sucking my dick and taking dick inside of his ass, will be like, oh, because nothing causes the disruption. That's going to be like entailing an infinite regress of nothings. So contrast with the positive ground, because U actively sustains coherence, that terminates that regress. And there's also going to be metaphysical incompleteness if you were to argue for that, because negative existentials can remove possibilities but cannot create or sustain them. So if you say no unicorns exist, that removes unicorns from actuality. And if you say like no entities ground possibilities, that cannot explain why possibilities exist at all.
All right, finished? I got you. So nothing you've said actually demonstrates that negative existential propositions do not have extensor mechanisms, by the way. Here's like one simple example of negative existential proposition. Having, for example, extensor mechanisms, or is able to provide a cause explanation for a given phenomenon. So if I say, for example, that the reason as to why it is the case that, let's say, John ran riot in room X is because Jessica, his mom, was not.
Can you restate that real quick?
Yeah, sure. If I say the reason as to why John, the kid, ran riots in a given room, like he was like, messing up the entire room, if I say the reason for that being the case is because of the absence of Jessica, or because Jessica was not there, that's like a negative claim, which is literally being utilized to explain a given phenomenon, right? There are several instances of this occurring. I don't know why you think for some reason that using words that you cannot spell or pronounce properly and just putting them together is going to be something which makes
that was rhetorical.
But you saying it's not rhetorical in itself is not rhetorical. But
I said that was rhetorical, dumb fuck.
Yeah, of course you did say that. But
well, it really isn't. That was sarcasm. Fucking dumbass.
I look at the interruption again. So I was just gonna say that example alone just defeats the entire proposition. Explain when you made the assertion that negative existential propositions cannot qualify as an explanatory mechanism or causal mechanism for a given phenomenon or exponanda. That's a false claim. So anything else?
Said that.
Stunlocked?
Yeah, this is just not an analogy, so I'm not stunlocked. So how does that address anything I said? Wait, before we conclude, how does that refute or address anything I said?
Because it's a clear example of a negative claim.
It's a clear example of a negative claim. So what's the contrasting hypothesis that explains the data equally? All you brought up is like a hypothesis. If John ran into a room and the reason for that is the absence of Jessica, that's one hypothesis. Now, where's the contrasting hypothesis that equally explains the data?
The hypothesis is because of the idea that he's a rude kid, and so even if Jessica was there, would not have an impact on how you act in the way.
Wait. Can you restate that?
Yeah, contrasting hypothesis could just simply be that he's a rude kid, whereas even if Jessica was in the room, it would not have an impact on how he acted afterwards. There you go. Simple. Now we can move on.
And why does that sufficiently explain the data?
We're not talking about whether or not it's sufficiently explained the data.
We're talking about ontological economy.
Stop interrupting. You said negative claims cannot explain the data. You said it lacks explanatory mechanism.
Oh my God, bro.
Yeah.
This is
So
bad.
Yes, Captain, you agree for sure.
This is fucking bad. Well, you said what? Like, Mike.
I thought you were down to go to.
So you said the contrasting hypothesis is that he's a rude kid. So if John ran into the room for the first hypothesis,
it would not have any relevancy to how he acted afterwards.
So you said for an example for negative existential propositions can provide the cause for a phenomenon. If I say John ran, because your mic is fucking shit and you have a terrible accent, I don't know if it's because you're Jamaican and barely nobody can understand you.
We can't talk about the accent. You like literally.
Well, the reason why that example falls is because the absence itself isn't causal; it's just a condition with actions derived by positive psychological states, and which relieve urgency desire to avoid Jessica. But Jessica's absence is just merely a permissive condition enabling the action, not an efficient cause. So your analogy, for example, the car moved because there was no wall blocking it. The cause isn't in the engine. Like, for example, that would be the positive force, and the absence of a wall is the background permission. So in contrast, the rudeness that you brought up is a positive cause. It's literally a dispositional property of John. We can conclude, bro. Oh my God. And by the way, negative claims presuppose a positive ontology. So to say Jessica is absent requires a pre-existing space, which is the room, and Jessica's possible presence. She exists and she could literally be there. And she could have norms of behavior. For example, John avoids Jessica in your fucking shitty ass analogy. However, the metaphysical implication there would be absence derives meaning only against a backdrop of positive realities. So if there's no positive framework, the absence is meaningless. An explanatory weakness of the absences doesn't fucking do anything. So, because take for example, like theory A, let's say like John ran in because he is rude. That's a positive trait. And theory B, John ran in because Jessica is absent. This can be like a negative state, right? But the critical flaw in theory B is that it cannot explain why John chose this specific action running in and why not dance or shout. So only theory A, rudeness, predicts specific behaviors, for example, barging in and like ignoring others. So theory B is just going to be complete here, and it needs hidden positive factors like John dislikes Jessica to be predictive. And there's going to be an asymmetry in the evidence. For example, evidence for theory B, which is Jessica's absence caused it, it's weak because it only correlates John's action with Jessica not being there, right? And it does not rule out theory A, rudeness. A rude kid also runs in it when Jessica's absence. So evidence for theory A, which is rudeness caused it, is strong because it predicts new actions. For example, John shoves the other side, complains loudly. So the negative existential proposition, your objection here, this doesn't work. Can we conclude?
We're not talking about first and foremost, just to be clear on something. Is my mic muffled?
You're very fucking clear. Can we conclude? Yes, your mic is fucking muffled. You sound retarded.
It's still muffled as before?
Yes, it's muffled. Anyone who thinks Apollo's doing good in this conversation, we could talk about it. Turn off noise suppression, bro. Turn off echo cancellation. Turn off noise suppression. Right? This objection that you used against Eric it's very bad.
But you have not been able to refute the argument.
I did refute it. If you think I didn't, we can conclude, bro.
Okay, cool. I'm just gonna restart my Discord. This is actually crazy.
Restart your yes. Yes, restart your Discord. In fact, this objection is so bad that I've already recorded myself refuting it months ago. This nigga is ass. Holy shit. Mercury, can you join my syndicate? Fuck Apollo. Join my syndicate, bro. I can treat you good, bro. This nigga's garbage.
Damn, Apollo. Wait, where Apollo at?
He's restarting his fucking shitty ass Discord, his fucking Jamaican Discord.
Damn, nigga finna steal his members. Damn.
No, I'm taking syndicate, bro.
Yo, Tron, if I join your syndicate, will I be as good as free and be able to beat Mercury?
Do you think Mercury won? We can talk about it.
No, I think Mercury got slammed, bro. So
yeah,
badly.
Mercury,
horribly. Just so badly.
He's rage baiting, by the way.
He's rage baiting?
Yeah. Think that shit funny?
Yo, Mercury, you want to talk about? We can talk about why you lost.
Nah, that shit was horrible,
Yo,
bro.
John.
Yo.
You're muffled?
Yeah, you're muffled as shit, bro. Like you're inaudible on the recording. Like if you save this recording right now, like if you played it back,